You walk through life and everything looks fine on the outside. People see you smiling, achieving, living what looks like a normal life. Yet inside, there is a hollow space that nothing seems to fill. You try to fill it with more work, more possessions, more people, more distractions. But no matter what you do, the emptiness returns like a shadow that never leaves. I tell you, this emptiness is not weakness. It is not failure. It is not proof that you are broken. Emptiness is a signal. It is life whispering to you that you are following the wrong pattern. The pattern of society, the pattern of approval, the pattern of living for everything outside of yourself instead of within yourself. I want you to understand that this emptiness is not your enemy. It is your teacher. And if you truly listen, it will guide you back to a life of fullness, strength, and freedom. Today, I will share with you 7 lessons that will help you understand why you feel empty and how to use that feeling as a compass that points you back to your own truth. 1. The pattern of noise. Most people cannot bear silence. The moment the world around them grows quiet, they feel restless, uneasy, and even anxious. So they surround themselves with layers of noise to cover that discomfort. They keep the television running in the background, not because they are watching it, but because silence feels unbearable. They cling to their phones, scrolling endlessly, not because they are learning anything useful, but because the buzzing notifications distract them from hearing their own thoughts. They fill their schedules with endless conversations, gossip, and meaningless activity because stillness feels like confrontation. This is what I call the pattern of noise, and it is one of the most common ways people try to escape themselves. For a short time, it seems to work. Noise numbs the mind. It gives you the illusion that you are alive, that you are busy, that you are connected. But deep down, after the distraction passes, a strange hollowness always returns because noise cannot feed the soul. Noise is not nourishment. It is like eating sugar when your body needs real food. For a moment it excites you, it gives you energy, but soon it fades, leaving you weaker and emptier than before. This is why so many people feel tired, anxious, and unfulfilled, even though they are constantly surrounded by sound, light, and movement. They have mistaken stimulation for fulfillment. The truth is, stimulation does not equal depth. You can drown in sound and still feel lonely. You can be surrounded by voices and still feel misunderstood. You can keep yourself busy every minute of the day and still feel that life has no meaning. The pattern of noise fools you into thinking you are escaping emptiness, but in reality, it is feeding it. Silence, on the other hand, is not your enemy. It is your mirror. The emptiness you feel in silence is not emptiness at all. It is simply you finally hearing yourself without disguise or distraction. It is the echo of your own truth that you have been ignoring. When you sit in silence, you may feel uncomfortable at first because all the hidden fears, doubts, and questions rise to the surface. But those are not punishments. They are invitations. They are the parts of you asking to be understood, healed, and acknowledged. If you never face them, you will always be running, and no amount of noise will ever satisfy you. When you learn to stay with silence instead of fleeing from it, something begins to change. The racing of the mind slows down, the constant comparisons fade, the judgments grow weaker, and in their place, clarity begins to appear. Silence shows you what really matters and what does not. It strips away the illusions you built through distraction, and it reveals the depth you always carried inside, but never recognized. In silence, you realize you are not empty. You are spacious. You are not hollow. You are limitless. And that realization brings a peace that no amount of noise could ever give you. If you keep living by the pattern of noise, you will always feel hollow because noise has no meaning. It is a mask, not a medicine. But if you have the courage to break that pattern and embrace silence, you will discover that silence is not a void, but a teacher. It will not destroy you, it will reveal you. And once you learn the discipline of silence, you will no longer fear emptiness, because you will understand that what you called emptiness was actually the doorway to your own depth. 2. The illusion of chasing more. One of the greatest illusions that keeps people trapped in emptiness is the belief that the next thing will finally make them whole. From childhood, you are taught that happiness lies somewhere ahead of you, always just a little further, always one step away from where you are now. You are told that once you finish school, then life will begin. Then you are told that once you get a job, then you will be secure. After that, the story continues. Once you get a bigger house, once you drive a better car, once you have more money, once you meet the perfect partner, once you achieve that recognition, then finally you will feel complete. And so you keep chasing, always believing that happiness is not here but somewhere else. You run faster and harder, and every time you get the thing you chased, the excitement burns brightly for a short moment, like firewood catching flame, and then quickly fades into ash. The emptiness returns, sometimes even deeper than before, because once again you realize that what you chased did not give you what you hoped for. This is the pattern of chasing more. It is a cycle that never ends because its promise is built on a lie. The lie is that fulfillment exists outside of you. The truth is that nothing outside of you has the power to fill what is missing inside of you. If you cannot feel grateful with little, you will not feel grateful with much. If you cannot feel alive in the present, you will not feel alive in the future. Chasing does not lead to fullness. It leads to exhaustion. You become like a man drinking salt water, thinking it will quench his thirst, but the more he drinks, the thirstier he becomes. Many people live their whole lives this way, running, chasing, achieving, accumulating, and yet when they lie down at night, they feel the same hollow silence in their chest. Understand this. Fulfillment is not something you arrive at one day when everything finally aligns. It is something you must cultivate in the moment you are living right now. Presence is the key. To be present is to see the value of this breath, this step, this conversation, this moment. Most people are half alive. They live in the shadow of the past or in the illusion of the future, never realizing that life is happening only here and now. When I trained my body, I did not think, one day I will be strong. No. I found strength in every repetition, in every punch, in every moment of practice. When you are truly present, you no longer wait for life. You experience it fully as it unfolds. And in that presence, emptiness cannot survive, because presence reveals that you are already whole. The problem with chasing is that it blinds you. It tells you that joy is in the next destination, so you run past the beauty of the journey. You forget to see the sky above you, the breath within you, the people beside you, the simple miracle of being alive. You trade the richness of now for the promise of later, but later never arrives. And so the hollowness grows, because you have built your life on postponing your own existence. To break this illusion, you must stop believing that happiness lives in the next. You must stop running and learn to stand still. Look around you. Feel your own body. Listen to your own breath. If you can find peace here, you will never again be fooled into believing it exists somewhere else. Chasing more also steals your freedom. When you live by this illusion, you hand your peace over to conditions you cannot control. You say, I will be happy when I have this, or I will be at peace when this happens. But what if it never happens? What if the thing you chase slips away? Then your happiness slips away with it, because you tied it to something unstable. True freedom is when your peace no longer depends on the world. When you can feel alive with nothing but your own breath, no one can take that from you. But when your peace depends on possessions, people, or achievements, you become a prisoner of the chase, forever empty even in the midst of abundance. Remember this. The more you chase, the further happiness runs from you, because you are always telling yourself it is not here, it is there, and wherever you go you carry the same mind, the same emptiness, the same restless spirit. The illusion breaks only when you realize that fullness is not something to achieve, but something to uncover. It is already within you, but it has been buried beneath the endless noise of wanting more. The art of presence uncovers it, The discipline of gratitude protects it, and the courage to stop chasing reveals it. So ask yourself, do you want to keep running in circles, or do you want to finally stop and see that you were never incomplete in the first place? If you choose to stop, the emptiness you feel will transform. It will no longer be a hollow ache pushing you forward in desperation. It will become a quiet space of awareness, showing you that everything you thought you lacked was already inside you. 3. Living by other people's scripts. One of the deepest reasons people feel empty is because they are living out a story that does not belong to them. From the time you are born, hands begin to shape you. Parents, teachers, culture, society, they hand you a script. They tell you what success looks like, what happiness should mean, who you should become, and what path you should follow. And because you are young, you believe them. You accept their definitions because you want to be accepted. You walk the path they drew for you, thinking that if you just perform the role well enough, life will reward you with fulfillment. You chase their approval, you follow their rules, you play the character they designed, and maybe, for a while, it seems to work. People applaud you, they tell you that you are doing well, they clap when you achieve the goals they set for you, but then something happens when the applause dies down, when the crowd is gone, when you are left alone with yourself in silence. A voice inside begins to whisper that something feels missing, that no matter how much you succeed by their standards, you do not feel whole inside. That voice is the voice of your truth, and that emptiness you feel is the price you pay for betraying it. Living by someone else's script is like wearing clothes that do not fit. You can force yourself into them, you can walk around and even look respectable, but deep inside you feel discomfort. No matter how well tailored the clothes may look to others, you know they were never designed for you. This is why so many people, even those who appear successful on the outside, carry a heaviness on the inside. They studied the subject their parents told them to study, they pursued the career society praised, they built the life that others admired, but when they sit in silence, they feel nothing but emptiness. Why? Because they never asked the most important question: what do I truly want? Who am I really? This is the trap of external scripts. They give you a sense of direction, but they rob you of authenticity. They give you a sense of belonging, but they steal your freedom. And what is worse, you become addicted to the applause of others, so you keep playing the role, even when it makes you miserable. You laugh when you want to cry. You agree when you want to refuse. You stay when you want to walk away. Slowly, you lose connection with your own self, and the emptiness grows louder. It is not that you do not know who you are. It is that you buried who you are beneath layers of expectations and roles. To break free, you must have the courage to burn the script and write your own. This is frightening because it means stepping out of the crowd, losing the approval you once depended on, and risking the loneliness of standing in your own truth. But let me tell you, that loneliness is not real loneliness. It is the beginning of freedom. When you walk your own path, you may not hear applause from the world, but you will feel alignment within your soul. And that alignment is worth more than any praise. Think of life like martial arts. You can imitate another fighter's style. You can copy his movements. You can even memorize his techniques. But no matter how well you copy, it will never truly be your own. You will always be limited by the boundaries of imitation. But when you break free, when you discard what is useless, absorb what is useful, and add what is uniquely your own, you create something alive. That is when the fight becomes art. That is when you become free. Life is no different. If you keep living as a copy of other people's expectations, you will always feel empty, because a copy can never feel alive. Fulfillment only comes when you live as an original. Understand this clearly. Emptiness is not proof that you are broken. It is proof that the life you are living does not belong to you. It is the alarm clock of your soul telling you to wake up. Do not silence that alarm with more noise, more distractions, or more applause. Listen to it. Respect it. It is trying to guide you back to yourself. The emptiness you feel is not punishment. It is direction. It is showing you that the path you are on is not your own. And the moment you step into your own path, the moment you write your own script, you will feel something powerful rise within you. That hollowness will no longer haunt you. It will transform into energy, into passion, into peace. So ask yourself, whose story are you living? Whose definition of success are you chasing? Whose approval are you sacrificing your truth for? If the answers point to anyone other than yourself, then that is why you feel empty. Have the courage to stop performing and start living. Be the author of your own destiny. When you do, you will no longer be a prisoner of emptiness. You will be the master of your own fullness. 4. Forgetting the body-mind connection. One of the most destructive patterns that creates emptiness is the separation of the body and the mind. Many people today live divided. They either drown themselves in the mind, overthinking, worrying, replaying the past, fearing the future, or they obsess over the body, treating it only as an object of appearance, something to decorate or compare, but not something to respect as a temple. When you split yourself like this, when the body and mind are no longer in harmony, you begin to feel empty because you are not whole. Wholeness is fullness, and division always creates hollowness. Think about it. When your mind is restless, filled with negativity, anger, fear, and judgment, your body suffers. You feel tension in your shoulders, tightness in your chest, heaviness in your breath. The body begins to carry the weight of an unhealthy mind, and it slowly breaks down. In the same way, when you neglect the body, when you eat poorly, never move, never rest, and treat it like a machine that you can run endlessly without maintenance, your mind also begins to weaken. You lose clarity, you lose focus, you lose discipline. The body becomes sluggish and the mind follows. This is why so many people feel tired even when they have done nothing, or anxious even when there is no danger. The body and the mind are constantly speaking to one another, and when you ignore one, the other cries out. That cry often appears as emptiness. I learned very early in my life that training is not just about building muscle or practicing kicks. Training is about uniting the body and the mind into one powerful instrument. If your body is strong but your mind is weak, your strength is wasted. You may lift weights, you may fight well, but you will collapse at the first sign of fear or doubt. On the other hand, if your mind is sharp but your body is weak, your clarity will not carry you far because you will not have the stamina to live your truth. True mastery comes when the body and the mind are no longer at war, but in harmony, moving as one. This is why I always said, the body cannot perform what the mind does not believe possible, and the mind cannot believe without the proof of the body's discipline. They are reflections of each other. The wrong pattern most people follow is one of neglect and imbalance. Some neglect their body, spending years chasing ideas, careers, and external goals, thinking that the mind alone will carry them. They forget that the mind lives inside the body, and when the body breaks down, the mind suffers with it. Others neglect their mind, chasing only physical appearance, obsessing over how the body looks but never caring about how the mind thinks. They treat training as vanity instead of discipline, and so their bodies become like shells, strong on the outside but empty within. In both cases, emptiness grows because you cannot divide what was created to work as one. To escape this emptiness, you must return to balance. Care for your body not as an ornament, but as a temple. Feed it with clean food, move it with discipline, rest it with respect. When you train your body, you are not just training muscle. You are training your mind to endure, to focus, to stay present. At the same time, discipline your mind not just with knowledge but with awareness. Watch your thoughts, remove negativity, cultivate clarity, and practice stillness. When you discipline your mind, your body follows. It relaxes, it recovers, it thrives. This is the way to fullness. I tell you this, when you are in harmony, when your body and mind are aligned, a new energy awakens in you. You no longer feel hollow because every part of you supports the other. Your body carries your mind with strength, and your mind guides your body with wisdom. This unity creates vitality, and vitality is the antidote to emptiness. That vitality is what makes you feel alive, even in simple moments, walking, breathing, training, or simply sitting in silence. You no longer need noise or distraction to feel complete, because completeness rises from within. Do not underestimate this. The world often glorifies imbalance. It praises those who burn out their bodies for success or neglect their minds for beauty. But those lives always collapse in the end, because emptiness cannot be ignored forever. The pattern of wholeness is simple. Respect both the body and the mind. See them not as separate, but as partners in the same journey. When one suffers, the other suffers. When both thrive, you thrive. So if you feel empty, ask yourself, how have I treated my body? How have I cared for my mind? Have I neglected one while overloading the other? Your answer will reveal why the hollowness remains. To heal it, bring them back together. Train your body with discipline, discipline your mind with clarity, and let both serve one another. When you do, you will no longer feel divided. You will feel whole, and in wholeness there is no room for emptiness. There is only energy, strength, and peace. 5. The trap of control. One of the greatest reasons people feel empty is because they are trapped in the illusion of control. From the moment you wake up, you try to shape life into your design. You try to control outcomes, to control how others see you, to control what people say, to control circumstances that are far bigger than you. And the more you tighten your grip, the more you realize that life does not bend so easily. The more you fight to hold it still, the more it slips through your fingers. What remains after the fight is exhaustion, frustration, and that hollow emptiness inside that whispers, "Why do I never feel at peace?" The problem lies in misunderstanding life. Life is not a rigid stone that you can carve into your preferred shape. It is water, always moving, always shifting, always adapting. The harder you try to control it, the more you suffer, because you are fighting against its very nature. Think about the moments when you have been most frustrated. They were not when things went smoothly, but when things did not go your way. You planned carefully, you expected a certain result, you demanded life to match your vision, and when it did not, you felt betrayed. But life did not betray you. Life simply flowed in its own way, while you refused to flow with it. This resistance is what creates emptiness, because instead of living, you are struggling. Instead of flowing, you are drowning in your own expectations. I have always said, be like water. Water does not resist, it adapts. Pour it into a cup, it becomes the cup. Pour it into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. Water is soft, yet it wears down the hardest rock. It yields, yet it cannot be destroyed. This is the way of life. If you can learn to live like water, you will discover strength in flexibility and freedom in surrender. But most people live like a closed fist, clenching so tightly onto what they want that they forget to breathe. They try to control people, demanding loyalty, demanding agreement, demanding recognition. And when people change, as they always do, emptiness appears. They try to control time, rushing it when they are impatient, slowing it when they are afraid. But time moves forward with or without them, and so they feel hollow. They try to control success, believing they can force the world to reward them, but life does not follow force, it follows flow. The trap of control is subtle. It convinces you that if you just try harder, if you just plan better, if you just demand more, then everything will finally stay in place. But control is an illusion, and chasing illusions will always leave you empty. What you can control, however, is yourself, your mind, your choices, your response to what happens. This is the secret. When you stop wasting energy trying to bend life to your will and instead master your own discipline, you become free. You stop being a slave to circumstances because you realize that peace was never outside of you. It was always in how you respond. This is not weakness. Do not confuse surrender with defeat. Yielding to life is not giving up. It is aligning with reality. Just as a martial artist adapts to his opponent's movement instead of resisting blindly, you too must learn to move with life instead of against it. In a fight, if I try to control every move of my opponent, I will lose, because fighting is alive, unpredictable. But if I remain fluid, if I respond rather than resist, I stay alive in the flow of combat. Life is the same. The emptiness you feel comes from fighting battles you were never meant to win, the battle to freeze life into your design. But life is not meant to be frozen. It is meant to be lived. Ask yourself honestly, how much of your emptiness comes from wanting things to be different than they are? How much suffering have you created by demanding life match your timetable, your desire, your conditions? And has it ever worked? Or has it left you more tired, more hollow, more lost? When you let go of control, you may at first feel vulnerable, but soon you discover peace. You begin to see that you do not need to hold everything together because life has its own intelligence. The seasons change without your command. The sun rises without your effort. Your heart beats without your instruction. When you align with this natural flow, you no longer feel hollow because you are no longer at war with existence. Freedom begins where control ends. When you release the need to control others, you create space for love. When you release the need to control outcomes, you create space for peace. When you release the need to control life itself, you create space for fullness. The emptiness you once feared becomes spaciousness, and that spaciousness becomes the foundation of freedom. Learn to let go, not because you are weak, but because you are wise. Flow with life, as water flows with the shape of its container. In that flow you will find strength, and in that strength you will never feel empty again. 6. Ignoring inner truth. Every human being carries within them a voice, a quiet, steady whisper that speaks of who they really are and what path they were meant to walk. Some call it intuition, some call it conscience, some call it the soul. I call it inner truth. It is the deepest part of you, the part that cannot be fooled, the part that knows when something feels right and when something feels wrong. But here is the problem. Most people spend their lives silencing that voice. They drown it in fear. They bury it under the expectations of others, and they trade it away for the safety of conformity. When you ignore this voice for too long, you begin to feel a strange hollowness inside. That emptiness is not because you lack something outside of you, it is because you have abandoned something within you. Think about how many times you felt uneasy in a situation but forced yourself to stay because you did not want to upset others. Think about how many times you wanted to say no but said yes because you feared rejection. Think about how many times you felt pulled in a different direction but ignored it because society told you that following that path would be foolish. Every time you betray that inner truth, you create a small crack inside. And over years of repeating this, those cracks join together and form a deep emptiness because you are no longer living as yourself. You are living as a shadow of yourself. This is why you can achieve all the things the world praises and still feel unsatisfied. You can earn money, build a reputation, surround yourself with people, and still go to bed feeling hollow. Why? Because the inner truth was never honored. You were busy living the life you were told to live, instead of the life you were born to live. Emptiness is the echo of your own voice calling out to you, reminding you that you have drifted too far from yourself. I tell you this, your inner truth is the most trustworthy guide you will ever have. It will never lie to you. It may not shout, but it always speaks clearly. It tells you when a relationship is draining your soul. It tells you when a job is killing your spirit. It tells you when the path you are walking is not aligned with who you are. And when you ignore it, it does not disappear. It waits. But the waiting comes with a cost, because the more you silence it, the more disconnected you become from yourself, and the emptiness grows stronger. The courage to listen to your inner truth is rare because it often asks you to go against the world. It asks you to leave the comfortable path and take the uncertain one. It asks you to stand alone when others expect you to follow the crowd. It asks you to trust what you feel even when logic or society mocks you. But those who listen to it discover a power that cannot be shaken, because when you live in alignment with your truth, you are no longer divided. You no longer feel the hollowness of pretending. You no longer need noise or validation to fill the void, because the void itself disappears. You are whole, because you are living as yourself. Understand that ignoring inner truth is one of the most dangerous patterns, because it does not destroy you loudly, it destroys you quietly. You do not wake up one day broken. Instead, you slowly lose connection with your joy, with your passion, with your energy. You become a stranger to yourself. You laugh less, you dream less, you live less. That is what emptiness feels like, not a sudden wound, but a slow fading of your spirit. But here is the good news: the voice is always waiting for you. Even if you have ignored it for years, the moment you decide to listen, it will speak again. It will guide you back to who you are. Ask yourself honestly, what is my inner truth telling me right now that I have been too afraid to admit? What am I pretending not to know? The answers may feel uncomfortable, but they are the key to freedom. Stop silencing that voice with excuses, fear, and distractions. Learn to sit quietly, listen deeply, and act courageously. The more you honor your inner truth, the less you will feel empty. Remember this: the world may try to shape you, society may try to mold you, and people may try to silence you, but only you can choose whether or not to betray yourself. Emptiness comes from betrayal of the self. Fullness comes from alignment with the self. If you choose to live by your truth, you will find that even if the world turns against you, you will not feel empty, because you are no longer against yourself. And when you are no longer divided within, nothing outside can make you hollow. That is the power of living in truth. 7. Mistaking emptiness for defeat. The most dangerous mistake people make is believing that emptiness is proof that they are broken, defeated, or hopeless. They feel the hollow ache inside and immediately assume that something is wrong with them, that life has already slipped out of their hands, that their story is over before it has truly begun. They label emptiness as depression, as failure, as weakness, and in doing so, they sink even deeper into despair. But I tell you the truth. Emptiness is not the end of your life. It is the beginning. It is not a sign of your defeat, but a signal of your awakening. Emptiness comes to you as a messenger. It does not come to punish you, but to alert you. It is telling you that the pattern you have been following no longer serves you. It is reminding you that the life you have built on noise, on chasing, on imitation, on control, on ignoring truth is not real living. It is performance. And when you feel that hollow space inside, it is your spirit's way of saying, enough. It is time to begin again. Do not curse that feeling. Do not bury it. Do not run from it. Respect it. It is the crack in the wall you built around yourself, and through that crack, light can finally enter. Think about this carefully. If life never gave you emptiness, you would remain asleep. You would keep walking blindly on the wrong path, chasing things that never satisfy, repeating patterns that quietly destroy you. Emptiness is the alarm clock of the soul. It shakes you awake, forces you to pause, and makes you ask the questions you have avoided for too long. Who am I really? What do I want? Why do I feel this way? These questions are painful, yes, but they are also liberating. They are the doorway to change. The very hollowness you fear is the same force that will push you to finally seek what is real. Most people mistake emptiness for defeat because they believe that fullness must always come from outside themselves. They think, if I feel empty, it must be because I failed to get enough, achieve enough, or become enough. But this belief is the true prison. Emptiness does not mean you are lacking. It means you are ready to let go of what does not belong to you. It is the clearing of old illusions, the space being created for something new. Imagine a cup filled with dirty water. You cannot pour fresh water into it without first emptying it. In the same way, your soul must sometimes feel empty because it is preparing to be filled with clarity, truth, and strength. What feels like defeat is actually preparation. You must learn to see emptiness not as a wound, but as a teacher. Every hollow moment in your life carries wisdom if you are willing to listen. The failed relationship that leaves you empty is showing you that love built on lies will never sustain you. The job that drains you is teaching you that money without meaning will never fulfill you. The silence that terrifies you is guiding you back to yourself, reminding you that peace cannot be found in distractions, but only in presence. These lessons are not punishments, they are gifts. But if you mistake emptiness for defeat, you will miss the lesson, and instead of growing, you will shrink. I want you to understand this clearly. Emptiness is not proof that you are weak. It is proof that you are alive and still searching for what is real. The weak person is not the one who feels empty. The weak person is the one who numbs themselves so completely with distraction that they never allow themselves to feel at all. To face your emptiness is to face your truth, and that requires courage. If you can sit with that hollowness, if you can resist the urge to run from it, you will begin to see that it is not a void but a doorway. On the other side of that doorway is transformation. Ask yourself, will I keep mistaking emptiness for defeat, or will I see it for what it really is? A call to change, a chance to begin again, a reminder that my old patterns no longer serve me. The choice is yours. If you label it as defeat, you will collapse into hopelessness. But if you honor it as guidance, you will rise into strength. Every master, every warrior, every thinker, every creator has walked through the valley of emptiness. It is the common ground of transformation. You are not alone in it, and you are not meant to stay in it forever. You are meant to walk through it and emerge stronger. Remember this, fullness is not the absence of emptiness. It is what happens when you learn to use emptiness as fuel. The hollow space inside is not a curse. It is an invitation. It is asking you to stop living in patterns that are false and to start living in alignment with what is true. The moment you stop mistaking emptiness for defeat, you reclaim your power. You begin to see that what felt like the end of your strength is actually the beginning of your strength. What felt like a void is actually space for creation. What felt like death is actually the birth of a new self. Do not run from emptiness. Do not bury it. Do not mislabel it as weakness. Face it, honor it, learn from it. It is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally. When you embrace it, you will no longer feel broken. You will feel ready, ready to change, ready to grow, ready to live, not by the wrong patterns, but by the truth of who you really are. That is not defeat. That is victory. 8. The illusion of waiting for the right moment. Another reason people feel empty is because they live their lives waiting for permission, waiting for the perfect opportunity, waiting for the right moment to finally act. They tell themselves, one day when the timing is right, when I feel more confident, when I have more money, when I have more support, then I will live the way I want. Then I will start, then I will finally be myself. And so they wait, and life passes them by. Days turn into months, months into years, and they still have not begun. The emptiness grows heavier, not because life betrayed them, but because they betrayed themselves by postponing their own existence. Understand this. There is no right moment. The right moment is an illusion created by fear to keep you still. Life is never going to align perfectly. The stars will not wait for you. The world will never clear the path completely. If you are always waiting for conditions to be perfect, you will never begin. And the tragedy is that while you wait, your soul feels neglected. You know deep down you are meant to be doing more, creating more, living more fully, but you keep holding back. That holding back is what creates the emptiness. You are not starving because life denied you. You are starving because you keep refusing to eat. Think of water again. Water does not wait for the perfect moment to flow. It does not say, "I will move only when the rocks clear from my path." No, it flows anyway. It finds a way around. It adapts. It begins where it is. This is the way you must live. You cannot control the future. You cannot control the obstacles, but you can control the step you take right now. And it is in taking that step, imperfect, uncertain, and sometimes messy, that you begin to feel alive. Waiting keeps you frozen, and anything frozen feels hollow. Acting brings motion, and motion awakens energy. That energy dissolves emptiness because you are no longer postponing life. You are living it. Ask yourself, how much of your emptiness comes from the gap between who you know you could be and who you are allowing yourself to be right now? That gap is widened every time you delay, every time you say, "Not yet," every time you silence the voice inside urging you to move. And the longer you delay, the louder the emptiness becomes. It gnaws at you, reminding you that you are not living up to your own potential. But if you stop waiting, if you begin even in small ways, that emptiness will transform into momentum. Do not mistake this lesson for recklessness. I am not telling you to act blindly or without thought. I am telling you to stop using waiting as a disguise for fear. Planning has its place. Patience has its value, but there is a difference between patience and paralysis. Many people are not patient. They are paralyzed. They tell themselves stories about timing to avoid the risk of failure. But avoiding risk is itself the greatest failure, because it leads to a life unlived. When you begin to move, even imperfectly, the hollowness fades because your spirit recognizes that you are honoring it. You are no longer leaving your inner truth on the shelf for another day. You are living it now. The body comes alive, the mind sharpens, the heart strengthens. You discover that fullness does not come from waiting for a perfect future, but from embracing the imperfect present. So hear me clearly. Stop waiting. Stop postponing yourself. The right moment is not ahead of you. It is here, in this breath, in this step, in this choice. If you want to escape emptiness, stop living as if life is a rehearsal and start living as if it is the performance. Because it is. There are no second chances to relive today. Begin now, and you will see that the emptiness you feared was never a curse. It was simply the hunger of your soul, waiting for you to finally feed it with action. 9. The fear of being alone. Another powerful reason why many people feel empty is because they are terrified of being alone. They treat solitude as if it is a punishment, something to be avoided at all costs, and so they surround themselves with people, noise, and distractions. Not because these things truly fulfill them, but because they mask the fear of being with themselves. The emptiness grows not because they lack company, but because they lack connection with their own spirit. You cannot fill your inner void with crowds. You cannot escape loneliness by surrounding yourself with more voices if you have never learned how to hear your own. Think about how most people live. They jump from one relationship to another, not because they have healed or grown, but because silence with themselves feels unbearable. They keep busy schedules, running from one task to another, not because every task is necessary, but because stillness exposes how disconnected they are from themselves. They rely on constant conversation, endless entertainment, and external validation, because being alone makes them feel empty. But here is the truth. Being alone does not create emptiness, it reveals it. The emptiness was already there. Solitude simply removes the noise that was covering it. When you fear solitude, you hand your peace to the outside world. You say to yourself, "I can only feel alive if I am surrounded, if I am needed, if I am seen." But what happens when the people leave? What happens when the crowd disappears? Suddenly, you collapse, because your identity was built on what others gave you, not what you built within yourself. This is why so many people fear being left, why rejection feels like death, why silence feels unbearable. They never learned to be their own companion. They never discovered the richness of their own company. And so they mistake emptiness for loneliness, when in fact it is an invitation to discover themselves. I tell you, solitude is not punishment, it is power. It is the ground on which true mastery is built. When you train your body, no one can do the push-ups for you. When you discipline your mind, no one can do the meditation for you. Growth requires solitude, because only in solitude can you hear the voice of your own truth without interruption. But most people run from it, and because they run, they never know who they truly are. They spend their lives performing for others, but when the stage is empty, they do not know themselves. That is the real cause of emptiness, not solitude itself, but the refusal to embrace it. Solitude has a way of sharpening you. When you sit in silence, at first you may feel restless, anxious, even afraid. The noise in your head grows louder, your doubts rise, your fears come to the surface. But if you stay long enough, something miraculous happens. The noise settles, the fears weaken, the truth begins to rise. You realize that solitude is not emptiness at all. It is clarity. It is the place where you begin to rebuild yourself from the inside out, not as the world told you to be, but as you truly are. And once you discover that strength, you no longer depend on constant company to feel alive. You enjoy people when they are with you, but you do not collapse when they are gone. That is real fullness, when your sense of self no longer depends on anything outside you. Ask yourself, do I fear being alone? Do I constantly search for company to silence the voice inside me? Do I rely on others to give me worth because I have not given it to myself? If the answer is yes, then that is why emptiness haunts you. But if you can begin to embrace solitude, not as a punishment but as a teacher, you will start to see its beauty. You will discover that emptiness fades when you no longer resist being with yourself. Do not confuse solitude with isolation. Isolation comes from fear and avoidance. Solitude comes from choice and strength. Isolation makes you weaker. Solitude makes you stronger. When you learn to sit with yourself and be at peace, you unlock a freedom that no one can take from you. You can walk into a crowded room or sit in complete silence, and in both places you will feel whole. That is when emptiness disappears, not because you filled it with others, but because you discovered that you were never truly alone. You always had yourself, and within yourself is more than enough. So do not fear solitude, do not run from silence, do not mistake the absence of people for the absence of meaning. Solitude is the training ground of the spirit. Embrace it, and you will discover that what you once called emptiness was actually the doorway to your own strength. When you master being alone, you will never again feel hollow, because you will carry fullness with you wherever you go. 10. The illusion of endless time. Another hidden reason why so many people feel empty is because they live as though they have endless time. They postpone their dreams, they delay their growth, they silence their truth, and they comfort themselves with the thought, one day I will get to it. They act as though tomorrow is promised, as though life is waiting patiently for them to finally wake up. But life is not waiting. Time is moving, whether you use it or not. And when you waste time, when you live without urgency, a certain emptiness creeps into your life, not because life betrayed you, but because you betrayed the gift of time itself. Emptiness is often the echo of wasted hours, days, and years. You feel it when you realize that you are repeating the same cycles with no progress, no growth, no meaning. You wake up, you go through the same motions, you distract yourself with temporary pleasures, and then you sleep again, all while the deeper part of you whispers that you are capable of more. That whisper grows into a hollow ache, because deep down you know that every day you delay is a piece of your life you will never get back. The emptiness is not a mystery. It is simply the recognition that you are living beneath your potential, squandering the most precious resource you have. People fool themselves with the illusion that they have time. They tell themselves, when I am older, then I will follow my passion. When I am settled, then I will take care of my health. When I am successful, then I will pay attention to my spirit. But what they fail to see is that time is not infinite. Every breath you take is one less breath you have left. Every moment you spend waiting is a moment you can never reclaim. And while you waste time waiting for the right day, life slips through your hands like sand. That slip is what creates the hollowness. You feel empty because time is moving, but you are not. Understand this clearly. Life is not measured by the number of years you live, but by how fully you live the years you are given. A man can live 80 years and still feel empty if he never truly lived, while another can live 40 years and feel full because he embraced every moment with awareness and courage. It is not about length, it is about depth. And depth comes only when you stop postponing yourself and begin living with urgency. I have always believed that action is the cure for emptiness. When you act, when you move, when you live deliberately, you align yourself with the flow of life. But when you waste time, when you drift without direction, when you delay what matters most, you separate yourself from life itself. That separation feels like hollowness, because you are alive but not truly living. You exist, but you do not expand. You breathe, but you do not awaken. Ask yourself honestly, how much of your emptiness comes from knowing that you are waiting instead of living? How much comes from the gap between your dreams and your daily actions? Emptiness grows in that gap. The longer you delay, the wider the gap becomes, and the heavier the hollowness feels. But the moment you begin, even in small steps, the gap begins to close. You feel energy, direction, purpose, and the emptiness begins to dissolve. Do not fall for the illusion of endless time. Do not waste your days believing that tomorrow will always be there. Tomorrow is not promised. All you have is this breath, this step, this moment. If you can honor it, if you can live it fully, you will discover that fullness is not something you find in the future. It is something you create right now. The man who waits for the perfect tomorrow dies with regret. The man who embraces today dies with peace because he knows he lived fully. So hear me clearly. Emptiness is not the enemy. It is the reminder. It is life shaking you awake, telling you that time is passing and you cannot afford to waste it any longer. Do not wait to be alive. Do not postpone yourself. Live now. Speak now. Move now. Act now. Because when you do, the emptiness you carry will transform into vitality, and you will discover that the fullness you are chasing has always been hidden in this very moment. 11th, chasing approval instead of living truth. Another powerful reason so many people feel empty is because they spend their lives chasing approval rather than living in alignment with their truth. From a young age, most are conditioned to seek recognition, to win applause, to please parents, teachers, friends, society. You are taught to measure yourself not by your own sense of truth, but by how others respond to you. If they approve, you feel worthy. If they disapprove, you feel worthless. Over time, this pattern becomes a trap that consumes your energy, and the deeper you fall into it, the emptier you become. Think about it carefully. How many choices in your life have been shaped more by what others expected than by what you truly desired? How many times did you silence your own voice to avoid conflict? How many dreams did you bury because you feared being judged? How many times did you wear a mask of agreement when your heart screamed no? Each of those moments felt small, but together they add up to a heavy emptiness. Because every time you betray yourself for approval, you carve out a piece of your soul and leave it behind. The pursuit of approval is endless because people's opinions are endless. One person praises you, another criticizes you. One day they admire you, the next they mock you. If your sense of worth depends on their shifting opinions, then your life will always feel hollow because you will never be stable. You will be like a leaf blown around by every passing wind. You may feel full when they cheer, but when the noise fades, so does your peace. This is why so many people, even those who are famous, admired and applauded by millions, confess to feeling empty, because applause cannot fill what only truth can sustain. I tell you this, Chasing approval is a losing battle. No matter what you do, someone will always criticize, someone will always misunderstand, someone will always disapprove. If you sacrifice your truth for their approval, you will lose yourself in the process. And the greatest emptiness a person can feel is the emptiness of being a stranger to their own soul. On the other hand, when you stand in your truth, even if the whole world disapproves, you feel whole because you are no longer divided within yourself. Fullness comes not from agreement outside, but from alignment inside. Consider martial arts. If I fight only to impress the crowd, I lose sight of the art itself. My movements become shallow, my spirit becomes weak, and the fight becomes empty performance. But if I fight from my truth, if I move as myself, then even if the crowd boos, I remain whole, because I did not betray who I am. Life is no different. When you live for applause, your life is a performance. When you live for truth, your life becomes art. Ask yourself honestly, how much of your emptiness comes from caring too much about what others think? How many times have you betrayed your own voice just to gain approval? And what did that approval bring you? Peace or more emptiness? The answer is clear. Approval may give you a momentary thrill, but it cannot sustain you. Truth, however, sustains you forever, because truth does not depend on anyone else. It belongs only to you. This does not mean you must reject everyone or live without care for others. It means you must know the difference between listening to feedback and being enslaved by opinion. It means you must recognize that respect from others is valuable, but respect for yourself is vital. You can live without their applause, but you cannot live without your own integrity. The man who loses the world's approval but keeps his truth still walks with fullness. The man who gains the world's approval but betrays his truth will always feel hollow. So if you want to escape emptiness, stop chasing approval. Stop living as if your worth depends on someone else's recognition. Stand in your truth, even if it is unpopular. Speak with honesty, even if it is misunderstood. Walk your path, even if others do not follow. When you live this way, emptiness disappears because you no longer abandon yourself. You no longer need validation to feel alive. You carry your own validation within, and that cannot be taken from you. Remember this: applause fades, opinions change, crowds disperse, but truth endures. If you build your life on approval, you will always be empty because approval is temporary. If you build your life on truth, you will always be full because truth is eternal. 12. Running from pain instead of learning from it. Another powerful reason why people feel empty is because they spend their lives running from pain instead of learning from it. The world has taught you to believe that pain is something to fear, something to escape, something to numb. You are told that comfort is the goal, that pleasure is the reward, and that pain means failure. And so you do everything you can to avoid it. You distract yourself with entertainment, you bury yourself in work, you numb yourself with substances, you drown yourself in noise, all in an effort to silence the ache inside. But the more you run from pain, the emptier you feel, because pain was never your enemy. Pain was your teacher. Think about it carefully. Every wound in your life has carried a lesson. The heartbreak you suffered showed you the difference between attachment and real love. The betrayal you endured revealed who was false and who was true. The failure you experienced humbled your pride and sharpened your focus. Yet in the moment, you saw only the sting, and instead of learning, you tried to bury it. But buried pain does not disappear. It lingers, it builds, and it carves out emptiness inside you because you refuse to let it transform you. Pain that is ignored becomes poison. Pain that is embraced becomes wisdom. I learned in martial arts that pain is part of growth. When you train your body, the muscles ache, the lungs burn, the bones bruise. If you run from that pain, you never build strength. But if you embrace it, if you push through it, the pain transforms into power. Life is no different. Emotional pain, spiritual pain, mental pain, they are signals of growth. They are the resistance you must face if you want to expand. Yet most people treat them as punishments, and so they remain weak, repeating the same cycles, forever hollow. The trap is in believing that comfort equals happiness. Comfort feels good in the moment, but over time it robs you of vitality. A life built only on comfort grows shallow, and shallow living always feels empty. Growth, however, is never comfortable. Growth asks you to stretch, to break old habits, to face fears, to endure discomfort. But when you accept it, you begin to feel alive again. Emptiness fades because you are no longer running. You are learning. Ask yourself, how much of my emptiness comes from pain I have refused to face? How many wounds have I hidden instead of healing? How many lessons have I ignored because I was too afraid to feel the sting? If you are honest, you will see that much of your hollowness is not because life abandoned you, but because you abandoned your own lessons. Every time you ran from pain, you also ran from the wisdom it carried, and without that wisdom, you remain incomplete. The truth is simple. You cannot escape pain, but you can transform it. You can choose to see every wound as an opening, every failure as a teacher, every hardship as training. When you live this way, emptiness no longer controls you because every painful experience fills you with new depth. Instead of being a victim of pain, you become its student. Instead of hollow despair, you carry meaningful scars. And those scars remind you not of defeat, but of strength. Remember this: pain is not here to destroy you, it is here to shape you. It is the hammer and chisel that carves away your illusions, leaving behind the raw truth of who you are. If you run from it, you stay unshaped, formless, shallow, and empty. But if you face it, if you learn from it, if you allow it to sculpt you, then you will discover that pain is the very thing that makes you whole. So stop running, stop numbing, stop fearing. Let pain teach you. Let it strengthen you. Let it reveal the wisdom hidden within it. When you do, the emptiness you once feared will transform into resilience, depth, and power. Pain is not the end. Pain is the beginning. And when you learn from it, you will never again mistake emptiness for weakness. You will see it as the doorway to strength. You see, the emptiness you carry inside is not the enemy you thought it was. It is not there to destroy you. It is there to wake you. Every hollow feeling, every restless night, every ache in your chest that no amount of money, no relationship, no distraction could fill, it all exists to tell you that the pattern you have been following is not your pattern. The noise, the chasing, the masks, the control, the lies, the fear, the waiting, the dependency, the illusions. These are the wrong scripts, the wrong designs. You have been living by them, and that is why you feel hollow. But the moment you begin to see emptiness not as defeat, but as direction, you awaken to a truth that changes everything. Emptiness is a messenger. It is telling you to pause, to look inward, to ask the questions you have avoided for too long. Who am I really? What do I truly want? Why am I living this way? What am I afraid to face? These questions are not comfortable, but they are necessary because they lead you back to yourself. And when you return to yourself, when you reclaim silence, when you stop chasing illusions, when you burn the scripts written by others, when you honor the connection of body and mind, when you release control, when you obey your inner truth, when you embrace solitude, when you stop postponing, when you learn from pain, you no longer feel hollow. You feel whole because you are finally living in alignment with who you are. Remember this clearly. Fullness does not come from outside. No possession, no applause, no relationship, no title can give it to you. Fullness is already within you, waiting to be uncovered. It is revealed when you stop betraying yourself, when you stop running, when you stop postponing, and when you finally have the courage to live as yourself. That is when the emptiness transforms. That is when what once felt like a void becomes a source of clarity, strength, and peace. Do not fear emptiness. Respect it. Thank it. It is the signal that you are ready to begin again. And if you listen to it, if you honor it, you will not remain a prisoner of hollow patterns. You will become the master of your own pattern. And in that mastery, you will discover that the fullness you were searching for has been with you all along. Live not as a copy, but as an original. Live not in noise, but in silence. Live not in fear, but in truth. Live not in postponement, but in presence. And you will see, as I have seen, that emptiness was never the end of you. It was the beginning of you.